9:07 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning. This is the Chris Hand Show, brought to you by Better Water LLC. Man, I'm looking outside, and the lack of snow is so disappointing. Is anybody else disappointed by that?
You should tell that to my car.
Why? What happened to your
It was
car?
covered in snow this morning.
Really?
Like a nice little thin layer of ice with like some white flakes on top, but like nothing crazy.
I was bummed.
I was hoping for those
snow.
sledding weather that you were asking for last week.
That's what we need. Hopefully we can get some Friday. Let's keep our fingers crossed. If you are driving out there, be careful. Just because we don't have snow doesn't mean there aren't going to be slick spots. There won't be ice. We're definitely in the arena for that. So, keep your head on a swivel, drive slow, and do all the things that you need to do. Don't be a jerk. I think that's really the number one rule.
Oh,
right?
Don't don't be the word that I'm thinking of on the road.
Yeah, don't say that on the air either.
No, absolutely not.
All right. Well, listen, it is the anniversary of the most deadliest day in American history. It is January 6th, the deadliest day where the only person that died was an unarmed protester. It's also the anniversary of the day that the federal government sent at least 26 assets into a crowd to instigate an insurrection. So we're going to get an election certified today on this 4th anniversary of January 6th, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. We are days away from actual change. And as we kick off this J6, I just want to remind you, everybody on the left is still so salty about January 6th, including Simone Sanders. She's MSNBC. She was an MSNBC host. Kamala Harris advisor. She was so upset that Donald Trump had the audacity to have a party at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend. She said that they were celebrating January 6th.
At a party at Mar-a-Lago last night. And that's not the news. The news is that the party was celebrating his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The guest list included several key players in those efforts, like Rudy Giuliani and Michael Flynn. Italy's conservative Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni was also there. They all gathered to celebrate John Eastman, who advised Trump in 2020 that Vice President Mike Pence had the power to unilaterally discard official electoral votes during the congressional certification process.
Well, I mean, they changed the rules after the fact, right? They changed the certification rules after the fact. Mike did have the authority at the time to do it. He didn't. People are upset about that, but here we are.
In a video posted online, apparently taken from the audience, Trump sang Eastman's praises, insisting Eastman was, quote, right the whole time. Tomorrow will mark 4 years since Trump's conspiracy led thousands of pro-Trump extremists to storm the United States Capitol.
Oh, the tears. They're so salty and so sweet. I love the taste of those tears. I do. I'm here for it. It's January 6th, the scariest day in American history. And all weekend long, you had leftist talk show hosts trying to drum up J6 hysteria. One of those guys was Jake Tapper, and he literally threw an alley-oop to Senator Amy Klobuchar, to talk about how angry and how evil and how awful J6 was.
Are you worried that January 6th, the horrible things that happened that day, are being forgotten?
No, I think that when you look at the work of the January 6th committee, and I support that work, the work that came out of the House of Representatives, they established for the historical record what happened.
Yeah, that bipartisan committee where they witness tampered and destroyed evidence after the fact. Yeah, yep. That committee, got it.
Putting aside the fact that a lot of people had reasons that they voted the way they did, people still care about their democracy. I was just watching one of your panels.
I love how she says, putting aside the way people voted the way they did. Oh, you mean Donald Trump winning a massive landslide over Kamala Harris, including the popular vote? That's what you meant? Yeah, got it.
4 out of 5 people in the last election felt that Donald Trump had done something wrong. He did. He led an insurrection. But the people have now voted, and our job tomorrow, which is also January 6th, is to implement the will of the people. It's the peaceful transition of power. So Democrats and Republicans will come together tomorrow to certify those results.
Yes, and we are looking forward to those results being certified. I love she says, Donald Trump, he led an insurrection. And I'll just pull up this tweet, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on January 6, 2021. I'm asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful, no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. They took him off Twitter after this. They censored the sitting president of the United States because of this. And it was not his fault. He was still giving the speech, and people were breaching the Capitol. We now know at least 26 federal assets were in the crowd. It's Donald Trump's fault. You see, Donald Trump did this. That bad, evil man, Donald Trump. Okay. You're going to see this a lot, especially today. You're going to hear this a lot from talking heads. And, listen, you saw it all weekend long. Benny Thompson, who what did he get? The highest civilian honor from President Biden because of his efforts on the J6 committee. He was on MSNBC over the weekend as well and talking about J6ers. And he's with this host, Michael Steele. And Michael Steele just goes on an unhinged rant about the people that showed up on January 6th.
And so we stand by the work of the committee. Obviously, the Department of Justice, who finally decided to move forward, brought a number of indictments, and people are in jail. And now this president-elect wants to call them patriots.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. Some of the people that are in jail were escorted inside. They had the doors held open for them. They stayed inside the velvet ropes. One of them was a grandmother who just went in there and prayed and then walked out. These evil, dastardly people. How could we let them get away with this?
And that's so unfortunate.
Well, they're not patriots. They're insurrectionists, and many of them have been convicted for their insurrection. And
how many people have been convicted for insurrection? Oh, zero. Oh, 0 people have been convicted for insurrection. Okay.
The fact that the president celebrates them is an embarrassment to the country, and the fact that he's about to be inaugurated, and to Alicia's point, say the words that he swears to protect, uphold, protect, defend the Constitution. We know he's lying. So we just know it.
Okay. All right. We know he's lying. Orange man bad. I can't wait. We're going to have another 4 years of this. Are you ready? Unhinged leftist media just lashing out at Donald Trump any chance they get. He won the popular vote. The majority of the American people said, yeah, not a big deal. The majority of the American people look at J6 and go, whatever. But let's also be honest. When George Floyd, a drug addict and convicted felon himself, had the audacity to resist arrest and ingest fentanyl and died, they burned down a bunch of cities. Nobody had a problem with that on the left. But when people think that the election's stolen and they go to the Capitol to have their voices heard, that's an issue. That's a massive issue. An issue so big that we got to put feds in the crowd and instigate that thing. Okay. All right. We got 4 years of this. Are you ready? Nancy Pelosi was on CBS over the weekend, Face the Nation, and she was talking about J6 as well. And Nancy Pelosi, hold on, before I play this clip. Didn't she just get hip replacement surgery like 2 weeks ago? It was like a couple weeks back. I don't know if she really got hip replacement surgery. I don't. The more I think about it, the average recovery time for somebody that gets hip replacement in their 70s, 8 to 12 weeks. So Nancy Pelosi's gotten a hip replacement and she's already flying back on a plane, and now she's sitting in CBS's studio for an interview. I don't know if she got an actual hip replacement. Are they covering up plastic surgery? They just may be. But she was on CBS's Face the Nation, and she's talking about January 6th, the most deadliest day in American history.
Tomorrow morning at the Capitol, you and other members of Congress will be there to certify the election win in 2024 of Donald Trump. There's an unprecedented level of security, in part because of what happened 4 years ago with the violent attack by his supporters to change the outcome of the last election. Why do you think that so many members of the American public decided that was not disqualifying
I mean, I'm sure it has nothing to do with the 26 federal assets in the crowd, right? I'm sure it has nothing to do with the pipe bomber that they didn't look for until, 2 days ago? I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that Ray Epps was calling for people to storm the Capitol the night before and Ray Epps doesn't get arrested. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that Nick Fuentes was saying we're going to take back this government and Nick doesn't get arrested. You know, we understand exactly what was going on January 6th. I think that's why the majority of the American people go, meh.
When it came to reelecting him president?
Well, again, thank you for the opportunity to talk about this, because the denial that they had about the election, which was what they were acting upon, and the denial that they've had since then about what happened on January 6th is just appalling.
Okay, but with the election, like you look at how many votes Biden got in 2020, and then you look at how many votes Kamala got in 2024. You look at how many votes Obama got in 26, or how many votes Trump got in 2016, how many votes Obama got in 2012, 08. You know, you go down the line. The only anomaly was the Joe Biden victory. Nobody's explained to us where those, what was it, like an extra 11 million votes went? Yeah, weird.
They want to revise history, and and they just can't. But I'm so glad that they have increased security, and I'm hoping that this will be very peaceful.
You know, Nancy could have increased security herself on January 6th, 2021. Do you remember that? See, I'm old enough to remember that we have audio now because Nancy Pelosi's daughter was doing her little documentary thing with Nancy all day long. You know, what a coincidence, on January 6th. And Nancy Pelosi was caught on video saying that she takes responsibility. Do you remember this?
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
No, there's not a question of how they had, but they don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
Oh, what was that? Hold on. What was that last part again?
Clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
Oh, she takes responsibility. You see, Donald Trump did authorize the National Guard that day. Yet now Nancy's saying that we're revising history, right? We have it on tape. Weird.
Because the public knows that. Now, to your question, I think it isn't, I wouldn't say that the American people disregarded this. Mm-hmm. They just had a different view as to what was in their interest economically and the rest.
I mean, maybe that's true. Maybe they realized the Democrats didn't have their best interests at heart. Or maybe the majority of the American people realized this was overblown and we had a dog and pony show in front of us with the J6 committee and we're like, okay, this is ridiculous.
So I don't call this a disregard of January 6th. I just call it something that they saw in their interest.
Oh, okay. Nancy Pelosi. Maybe she's still hopped up on meds from that hip replacement surgery or something. I don't know. She seems a bit off. Not as drunk as she usually is. She seems like she's on a bit of pain pills, personally. Having seen a few people on pain pills, maybe that's what she's on. But, hey, it's now January 6th, the 4th anniversary of the deadliest day in American history. Worse than Pearl Harbor, worse than 9/11, according to your favorite Democrats. And we're going to see Donald Trump's election certified today. It's a wild turn of events. If you had asked somebody on January 7th if Donald Trump would be getting certified as the winner of the 2024 election today, they would have looked at you like you were crazy. The greatest political comeback in history, and we get to witness it in real time. How lucky are we? I mean, honestly, do you ever stop and kind of look around and be like, wow, out of all the times that I could be alive, how cool is it to be able to witness what we're witnessing right now? I know some of it sucks. Let's be fair. but it is pretty cool to be here and watch. On the way, we will talk about a little bit more about J6. Jen Psaki's upset. MSNBC is already diving into Trump being the first convicted felon to serve. And Chuck Schumer getting called out about the lies that he told covering up Biden's mental acuity. All that and more on the way. Hang out with us. It's 9:22. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
President Trump goes to court over that hush money trial. He was supposed to be sentenced on Friday. And the ultimate indignation for Kamala Harris. We've got those stories coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I just want to be a fly on the wall as Kamala Harris gets ready today.
Yeah.
I expect a lot of day drinking and tears. That's what I do. That's what I'm thinking. She released a video, Kamala did, saying that she's going to certify the results of that election. And I mean, the cope in this video. I love it. Vice President Kamala Harris, everyone.
The peaceful transfer of power is one of the most fundamental principles of American democracy. As much as any other principle, it is what distinguishes our system of government from monarchy or tyranny. Today at the United States Capitol, I will perform my constitutional duty as Vice President of the United States to certify the results of the 2024 election.
Oh, I love it. You lost. What a clown.
This duty is a sacred obligation, one I will uphold, guided by love of country.
Which country? She couldn't be talking about ours.
Loyalty to our Constitution, and my unwavering faith in the American people.
Unless you're a MAGA extremist, right? Yeah.
As we have seen, our democracy can be fragile, and it is up to then each one of us to stand up for our most cherished principles.
Yeah, well, they did that in November. Overwhelmingly. Yep.
And to make sure that in America, our government always remains of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Yeah, well, we're going to get back to that. America first is on the table. You know, Kamala Harris and Biden, they were Ukraine first, illegal alien first, anybody but America first. That's about to change. That election's getting certified today, and I cannot wait. I can't wait to see the grimace on her face when she certifies that thing. And I know we're going to have audio for you. That's going to be just the best. And you know Donald Trump is living rent-free in Kamala Harris's head right now. And for that, I thank him. On the way, again, we'll cover a little bit more about the deadliest day in American history, January 6th. It's a stain on our democracy. And we'll also talk a little bit more about Joe Biden. Meet the Press over the weekend. NBC, Kristen Welker, she actually questioned Chuck Schumer about covering up Biden's mental acuity. Where was this energy the last 4 years? We'll bring you that clip after the news with Joan, which starts right now on Super Talk.
Good morning, 9:30 now. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. President-elect Donald Trump is not facing jail time, but his attorneys want this week's sentencing in his criminal hush money case to be halted.
Judge Juan Merchan plans to sentence the president-elect to an unconditional discharge because it strikes the balance between the duties of a president and the sanctity of a jury verdict. But attorneys for Trump say that does not matter and no sentence is appropriate because of legal errors. They also say Merchan lacks the authority to move forward because Trump is still appealing the earlier ruling that the Supreme Court's presidential immunity decision does not apply here. Brian Clark, ABC News, New York.
Well, this is January 6th, and it is, of course, the day that Donald Trump's victory will be certified by Congress. ABC political director Rick Klein tells us there were changes instituted after the last presidential election.
The Electoral Count Reform Act was passed by Congress to kind of make it harder for individual members of Congress to challenge the results and to make clear that the role of the vice president is purely ministerial, that there's no judgment involved. That means that Vice President Harris herself is the one that has to certify the election results for her rival, for former President and now President-elect Donald Trump.
Now, in a videotaped statement, Harris did promise that there wouldn't be any shenanigans. She said she will perform what she calls her sacred obligation. Well, there are some new requirements that go into effect this week for out-of-state drivers here in the volunteer state. Starting on Friday, people moving into Tennessee from Kentucky, California, Connecticut, Illinois, Oklahoma, Nevada, and West Virginia will need to present a motor vehicle record when applying for a driver's license that doesn't apply to anyone else. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather. Our next time, Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 9:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm big hype. You know what I'm doing after the show today? I'm heading down to the Glock store because all month long, if you use my name when you book a training session, you can shoot a full auto H&K suppressed MP5 for free just by mentioning my name. So this was one of the first times where I called the Glock store. I was like, okay, so do I get to shoot the full auto H&K suppressed MP5 for free? And they were like, I guess. And I was like, it's for the commercials. And they were like, all right, well, come on down. I said, bet. So we're going to do that today. And I'm so excited. When I go to train, and I should go more, I do it at the Glock store. I do it at the shoot270.com indoor ranges. It's a private shooting room with a personal instructor, not multiple lanes, and some stranger shooting next to you. So all month long, if you book a session, you can shoot that full auto H&K suppressed MP5 for free just by mentioning my name, Chris Hand. The right way to train is with a personal instructor in a private shooting room. And after every session, you're going to walk out more confident and a better shooter. And in January, you'll experience the thrill of shooting a full auto MP5. The incredible, incomparable shoot270.com. It's only in Nashville and only at my place to train, the Glock store. Book your session today, shoot270.com. It's 9:37 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. You can find me on Twitter, True Social, and Instagram at Chris Hand on air. You can listen to the show wherever you go with the iHeartRadio or the TuneIn app. If you miss anything, you can catch the podcast on Apple and Spotify, and you can watch the show on Supertalk TV, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Jen Psaki, she is so upset that Donald Trump is going to the White House and not going to prison.
Okay, Neil, let me start with you. I think, obviously, this was a strongly worded from Judge Merchan. But for anyone out there who's not a lawyer and who's wondering, what is the point of having a sentencing hearing but not punishing him at all? What is the point?
Yeah, so it's strongly worded, Jen, in two different senses. In one, the first part, Judge Merchan really says, look, Trump violated the law, had felony convictions. This jury, this guilty verdict wasn't handed down by operatives or elites or anything like that. It was a jury of 12 of Donald Trump's peers.
Peers in leftist liberal New York. Peers.
Who listened, they deliberated, and affirmed the enduring principle that no one is above the law. So that's part one of the decision. The judge says, I'm not going to overturn this conviction. The jury rendered it in a fair and impartial way. Part two, about the sentencing, the judge says, but I'm likely to give what he calls an unconditional discharge, which, as you say, means no jail time. It's still important because it's still a felony conviction, and Donald Trump almost certainly is going to appeal it in any number of ways. But right now, Donald Trump stands as a convicted felon. And sometimes you do have felons who don't serve jail time.
Yeah, sometimes you have felons that don't serve jail time. I mean, most of the times it's because it's a Soros-backed prosecutor that's going after the case, but in this scenario, it was weaponized Justice Department, and he's not going to jail. He's not going to jail. MSNBC was salty about it, too. He's the first convicted felon to serve as president. Yep, he is. And I'm here for it.
Decision to uphold Trump's conviction and schedule the sentencing for January 10th almost certainly means Trump will be the first felon to serve as president of the United States. Now, if the sentencing goes forward as planned, it will come on the same week as the anniversary of the January 6th attack on the Capitol, where, yet again, Donald Trump has all but escaped accountability for his role in attempting to overturn a free and fair election.
Yeah, you know who else escaped accountability? The feds. The feds in the crowd. Ray Epps, Nick Fuentes. There's a lot of people that escaped accountability. They're so salty. Donald Trump is going to be a convicted felon, and he's going to be the first convicted felon to ever serve as president. Well, listen, if he's that bad, what does it say about your candidates? What does it say about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? I mean, listen, Joe Biden, even you guys knew that you couldn't run him. He was failing, glitching out on the main stage every time he had a camera in his face. And then when the debate happened, it was exposed fully. They tried to cover it up for months and months, cheap fakes and the like. But we knew what was going on. And had we had an honest media, we wouldn't have needed the debate. They would have got Joe out of there a lot sooner. And on Meet the Press over the weekend, Kristen Welker, she actually called out Chuck Schumer for covering up Biden's decline. And I was a bit surprised by this, and I'm wondering, where was this energy, a couple years ago?
Obviously, there has been a lot of focus on President Biden's role in this. You were obviously in close contact with President Biden well before the public tuned into that debate that ultimately led to him stepping down. I want to play you a little bit of something you said last year. Take a look.
I talk to President Biden, regularly. Sometimes several times in a week, or usually several times in a week. His mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
I love that she played that clip for Chuck Schumer. It wasn't just Schumer. I mean, everybody said, he's running circles around his staff. We can't keep up with him. And it's like the guy that's shaking hands with ghosts, the guy that's calling out for dead people in the crowd. Right? Like that guy?
I think it's also funny. We just had Lisa call in, and she said, we would have more convicted felons in office if they had actually convicted Biden for all the trash that he had done so far.
Honestly, I mean, geez. But, Kristen Welker, she calls out Chuck Schumer on his lies. She plays the clip. Where was this the last few years? And Chuck Schumer, he just quickly deflects from the clip.
Leader Schumer, what do you say to Americans who feel as though you and other top Democrats misled them
about President Biden's mental acuity?
Look, we didn't, and let's look at President Biden.
So he says, we didn't, and now he's just going to pucker up and start smooching that rump of Joe Biden. You ready for this? It's downright disgusting what he's about to do.
He's had an amazing record. The legislation we passed, one of the most significant groups of legislation since since Lyndon Johnson's Great Society, putting in 235 judges, a record, and he's a patriot. He's a great guy. And when he stepped down, he did it on his own because he thought it was better not only for the Democratic Party, for America. We should all salute him.
Oh, okay. Let's salute him. He did it on his own, guys. Those rumors of the threats of the 25th Amendment had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. Oh, my gosh. The mental gymnastics of these people. The mental gymnastics. So they removed Biden. They removed Biden. They could have done it a lot sooner. They could have. And again, over on MSNBC over the weekend, top Kamala advisor Simone Sanders says the question on the table, is Biden all the way there?
I was very surprised that when you asked the question about mental acuity, he didn't more forcefully push back. The question on the table is the president all the way there? And the answer is unequivocally yes.
This is why you guys lost the election. The gaslighting. Everyone in America understands that he is not all the way there. Everyone in America understands he's not running the country. And you get on TV and you just lie to us. If you're willing to lie to us about that, you're willing to lie to us about anything. And then, so we knew what was going on. You remove Joe, you put in Kamala. Kamala's been having a tough couple days. Today's going to be really hard for her. Do you think she's drinking already? She may be drinking already. And while she was swearing in senators last week, the woman who is a heartbeat away from the presidency, she forgot the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen.
Please join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. Pledge allegiance to the United States of...
Did you catch that?
Pledge allegiance to the United States.
She doesn't even know the Pledge of Allegiance. That woman is a heartbeat away from the presidency today. She could have won that last election. Luckily, the American people saw through the mainstream media lies, and we dodged a bullet. We've dodged a few bullets. Let's be honest. But on Meet the Press over the weekend, Chuck Schumer, he's just saying, listen, we lost that election because we didn't explain how much good things we've done for the American people. And I'm sitting here and I'm listening to him say that. I'm like, what good things are you talking about?
So we did a lot of good things, but all too often, Kristen, we talked about the mechanics of the legislation and the details of the legislation, and we really didn't show the kind of empathy and concern to average, or show enough of it to average working families who didn't realize how much we had done and how much we care for them.
Oh, yeah. How much? How much have you done and how much do you care? Very little and not at all. This is just the Democrats, man. They just double down. They can't accept what cost them the election at all. Joe Biden's going to be giving a couple speeches before he leaves office. He's gonna slur his words and really try to stick around on the teleprompter as best he can in the coming weeks before he leaves office. He's set to deliver 2 major speeches before he leaves office.
President Biden is set to deliver 2 major speeches before he leaves office. 2 people familiar with the plans exclusively tell NBC News the first speech will focus on foreign policy. It will take place when the president returns from his final trip abroad, a trip to Italy, on January 12th.
Okay, so his first speech is going to be foreign policy. Cool. The Italian prime minister was at Mar-a-Lago over the weekend. Why does this 80-year-old, doddering old man with memory issues need to hop on a plane to go to Italy in the waning days of his presidency. Is this not elder abuse? I feel like it's a bit of elder abuse. So he's going to go to Italy, even though the prime minister of Italy was here in America. Might still be here. She was here over the weekend hanging out with Donald Trump.
Now, the second speech will be a farewell address to the country. In those remarks, he's expected to share a message about the future and reflect on his decades in public office.
Okay, yeah. Decades upon decades in public office where he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. And one of the other things he's doing on the way out of the office, he's giving out some medals. He's got a lot of medals to give out. He's giving out medals to everybody. He gave a medal to Bill Nye, the science guy. Awesome. He gave a medal to Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton got a medal. And George Soros got a medal. What is the medal? This time it's the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Yeah, listen, when I think the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the names that come to the top of my mind are Clinton, Soros, Bill Nye. It's unreal. Those are 3 of just 19 individuals that Biden says are great leaders who have made America and the world a better place. This is the guy who is sharp as a tack? Okay. Jack Posobiec had some thoughts on George Soros and Hillary Clinton and Bill Nye getting medals of freedom right before Trump takes office.
Today, without any announcement, just at the last second, George Soros is going to go to the White House and be awarded the civilian equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor. Your thoughts, sir?
Steve, this is an important clarifying moment for our republic. It is a clarifying moment for the War Room Posse. It is also, by the way, a verification for the War Room Posse. We have been right the entire time. When we said that it seemed like our government is being sold out to foreign interests, when it seemed like the empire's interests benefit the elites when they don't benefit the people at home, when these imperial special interests seem to benefit the elites of Brussels or Wall Street or the U.S. Chamber of Commerce or all of these various, tech programs, et cetera, not to mention the wars that have been fought on the periphery of the empire to expand the international rules-based order. We were told, no, we're crazy, we're conspiracy theorists, we got tinfoil on, and then all of a sudden, here we are in the waning days of the last imperial presidency. We get this notification, really just a report. There's no announcement. There's been no official. Karine Jean-Pierre isn't going up and giving some big statement about this. We get this announcement that there is an award that is going to the people that have been calling the shots the entire time.
And according to the news release from the Biden White House, the award for Clinton is for her making history many times over decades in public service. Yeah, history. Like when you get a subpoena for your cell phones, you get to smash them with a hammer, and it's not a big deal. That's historic. That's historic. They highlighted being the first lady elected to the United States Senate. Oh, that's nice. The award for Clinton is set to be given just a couple weeks before her former rival, Donald Trump, takes office. And Soros, the left-wing billionaire political donor, the statement summarized his accolades. They said, George Soros is an investor, philanthropist, and founder of Open Society Foundations. Through his network of foundations, partners, and projects in more than 120 countries, Soros has focused on global initiatives that strengthen democracy, human rights, education, and social justice. Is that so? Hiring radical, getting elected radical left-wing prosecutors and DAs all over the country. That's quite the legacy. Quite the legacy. It reminded me, Elon was on Joe Rogan talking about George Soros some months back. And it's like, you talk about George Soros and how evil this guy is. For him to get that medal, it is a slap in the face to anybody that got the medal before him. Same with Hillary, but especially George Soros. Like the Hillary Clinton thing, I can almost let slide because I understand the Bidens and the Clintons and I understand Democrats. But George Soros got the medal?
One often hears of the sort of George Soros boogeyman. But, I mean, Soros actually, he is, I believe, the top contributor to the Democratic Party. The second one was Sam Bankman-Fried. Yeah. And Soros, I don't know. I mean, he had a very difficult upbringing. And in my opinion, he fundamentally hates humanity.
Yeah. I'll bring you more of Elon's thoughts on George Soros when we return. It's 9:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, and I'm here for my friends at Paul Winkler Inc. New year, new you. Listen, you got New Year's resolutions, right? You want to get back in the gym. You want to get yourself in the best shape possible. But what about your financial shape? Honestly, you go to the gym, you want to get lined up with a personal trainer because you want to know you're doing the right things. The same is true about your investments and your retirement. You don't want to go into this alone. You want to talk to an expert, and the guy that I trust is Paul Winkler. Now, I've heard his show for years, the Paul Winkler Investor Coaching Show. We run it here every Saturday, and when I would listen to his show, I would learn from him. So when I got my show here, I was like, man, I got to talk to Paul. Like, I'm excited to talk to Paul. And when I got to talk to him, break some bread, I realized he's the exact same person you hear on that show. Super smart, knows exactly what's going on in the financial investing world, and he can break it down for you in a way that you can understand with data and facts to back what he's saying. This is Paul and his team. They don't work on commission. They focus on education, and they're going to take the stress out of investing for you. Honestly, they've taken away that uneasy feeling of blind trust for me and my wife. They can do the exact same thing for you. They'll look at your whole financial picture and then help you make some decisions. Set up a 15-minute phone call today on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Up ahead here on Super Talk 99.7, we'll take a look at what's happening this morning as Franklin police say they need your help finding somebody. Details on that coming up at 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan Jones. Biden bestowing presidential medals of freedom upon Hillary Clinton, George Soros, and Bill Nye the Science Guy. That's the headline from the Post-Millennial. George Soros. How does this guy get a medal? I played a bit of this clip a moment ago. Elon Musk talking about George Soros. Here's the rest of the clip.
One often hears of the sort of George Soros boogeyman, but I mean, Soros actually, he is, I believe, the top contributor to the Democratic Party. The second one was Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, and we know what happened to him.
So, and Soros, I don't know. I mean, he had a very difficult upbringing, and in my opinion, he fundamentally hates humanity.
Yeah, and that difficult upbringing, wasn't he working with the Nazis or something like that? I don't know. I've heard rumors online.
That's my opinion.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, well, he's doing things that erode the fabric of civilization. Getting DAs elected who refuse to prosecute crime. That's part of the problem in San Francisco and LA and a bunch of other cities. So why would you do that?
Was it humanity, or is it just the United States as a whole? I mean,
he's pushing things in other countries too.
He's doing the same thing?
Yeah. Now, George at this point is pretty old. I mean, he's not, he's basically a bit senile at this point. But I mean, he's very smart. And he's very good at arbitrage. Famously, he shorted the British pound. That's sort of how I think he made his first money, was shorting the pound. So he's good at spotting, basically arbitrage, like spotting value for money that other people don't see. So one of the things he noticed was that that the value for money in local races is much higher than it is in national races. So the lowest value for money is a presidential race. Then next lowest value for money is a Senate race, then a Congress, and but once you get to sort of city and state district attorneys, the value for money is extremely good. And Soros realized that you don't actually need to change the laws; you just need to change how they're enforced.
And we've seen that. We've seen that tenfold, haven't we? Well, hey, that gets you a Presidential Medal of Freedom from the Democrats in 2025. Now, Elon said, hey, he's a bit senile now, but his son isn't. Alex Soros is definitely next in line to that Soros empire, someone we should keep an eye on as he's canoodling with Huma Abedin. It's just a wild, wild bunch. But yeah, George Soros, Presidential Medal of Freedom holder. Wild. It's 10:01 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, 10:01. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We had some snow showers early this morning, and there are reports that it's snowing right now in Murfreesboro. Temperatures remain low throughout the day today, but consider Virginia, where state police responded to 200 vehicle crashes between 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon and 4 o'clock this morning. Meantime, a record 8 inches of snow has fallen at Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky International Airport. Other news, the highly decorated Special Forces soldier who died by suicide in a Cybertruck explosion on New Year's Day confided to a former girlfriend who had served as an Army nurse that he had faced significant pain and exhaustion. She says that's a key to symptoms of traumatic brain injury. Alicia Errett spoke with ABC News.
I think he was just reaching out, and I just didn't pick up on it. I don't think he didn't say anything explicit that would have triggered it, I guess. I just wish I had responded differently.
37-year-old Green Beret Matthew Livelsberger was a 5-time recipient of the Bronze Star. Police in Lebanon have not been able to track down the suspect who fired shots at a Walmart late Saturday night. That incident caused the store to be evacuated, and people living nearby were asked to shelter in place. No one was injured. Detectives continue investigating. They're asking anyone with information to call Lebanon police. Social Security is poised to fail, but President Biden just signed a bill that expands benefits to more people.
The Social Security Fairness Act will boost payments for public servants like teachers, firefighters, police officers. It repeals decades-old policies that limited those Social Security payments for some retirees who also collected public pensions. This law passed with bipartisan support, despite concerns that the Social Security Trust Fund is on track to run out of money in just 9 years.
That's ABC's Elizabeth Schulz reporting. Also, the Biden administration finalized a new rule that would ban most natural gas hot water heaters. This rule was cemented the day after Christmas, but the White House didn't send out any press release or public announcement at all. It's scheduled to go into effect in March. Now, this rule, if President Trump does not reverse it, would phase out production of roughly 40% of new tankless water heaters. The Washington Free Beacon says consumers would be left with fewer options and cause higher prices. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
.07 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? It's Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. So during the break, we just got some breaking news. The Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, is resigning as we speak. And I said to Mason, how long until we're back? Because they're doing a press conference like right now. And he said, well, we can be back right now if you want me to drop the weather. And I said, the weather's probably a little bit more important. Let's be honest. I mean, Governor Trudeau, we love the 51st state, but it's snowmageddon out here.
I mean, I think we called Trudeau. I didn't think we called the weather.
No, yeah, exactly.
Just saying.
So he's resigning as we speak.
As we speak.
Here's one thing that he said, Chris. Quote, our country today faces a grave challenge. The incoming administration in the United States is pursuing a policy of aggressive economic nationalism, including a threat of 25% tariffs. So there's where the part of the problem lies for him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, he's been a lousy prime minister.
Yeah.
And we've seen that throughout COVID and the tyrannical restrictions that they had up there, the trucker convoy protests. I'm not a fan of Justin Trudeau one bit. And hopefully this means that they can get an actual conservative in there like Pierre Poilievre. I don't know if they will, because Canada is still, at the end of the day, a leftist hellhole. That's just the facts. You know, there's some conservative pockets, but it's going to be tough for them to get a conservative in there. Hopefully they can.
I guess that trip to Mar-a-Lago for Trudeau didn't work out the way he had hoped.
Oh, my gosh. No, it didn't. But it's wild to see the ripple effects of Trump being president before he's even president.
Hasn't even stepped a foot in office
yet.
They
haven't even certified the election yet. And Trump, I mean, so there was a clip going around of Biden, and Biden kind of being a jerk. And he's like, I've met more world leaders than you've met in your entire GD life. And it's like, yeah, but, you know, since Trump won the election, I feel like more world leaders have come to meet him than in your entire 4 years in office.
Good point.
You know, and they were doing that during the campaign. Before he even won the election, you had guys like Zelensky coming in, you had the Japanese prime minister coming in, and they were all meeting with Trump. But Trump on Truth Social, Congress certifies our great election victory today, a big moment in history. MAGA, yeah, it's a big day. So we're going to get Trump certifying the election, and we have Trudeau resigning from his government in Canada. Wild developments. Absolutely wild. We're trying to find that press conference live, although half of it's probably in French. Is it in French?
No, they go back and forth.
All right. We got it live. Pull up Justin Trudeau, Justin Trudeau here live, resigning. Okay, so, that volume is really low, but what I did here is it's becoming obvious to me that I can't carry the liberal values into the next, the next government, whatever you said? Whatever, what a loser.
Can we talk about the weather a little more?
Listen, we quite literally, as we were coming in, Mason's like, yo, Trudeau's resigning. And I said, how long till we're back? And he said, I can drop the weather. I said, the weather's more important.
It is, man. It's affecting us so much.
Listen, the weather is affecting us more than Justin Trudeau resigning.
Absolutely.
I might send him a letter and say, I'm a conservative news host in Nashville. I decided the weather was more important than your resignation. Yeah. I mean, the volume was off on that presser, but Trudeau has resigned from the Canadian government. What a crazy day. What a crazy day. There were rumors that this was going to be Wednesday, but he didn't waste any time. This is Justin Trudeau just a little while ago.
I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process.
Oh, so it wasn't even your stream. That's just the mic quality in Canada. They don't have.
No, yeah. It's just low all across the board.
They don't have any good audio in Canada?
No, that mic is like half a foot away from his face, and he's like whispering.
Last night, I asked the president of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that.
Do you hear somebody in the background? They're just like stretching out tape. What are they doing?
I think
is this
camera capture?
Is this a hostage video? Like they're about to duct tape the guy? You hear him? Listen, he's like, I can't fight these internal battles and be your prime minister. And you hear somebody just like just undo a thing of duct tape.
Battles, I cannot be the best option.
What is that? What is going on in Canada?
Say the right words.
You better say it. Better say it.
Don't hold back. Read the teleprompter.
Mes chers amis, comme vous savez, je suis un fighter.
Oh, he just, in French, he said, "My dear friends, I am a fighter." How can you say, okay, it's pretty ironic on a few levels. The French being fighters, right? We know their history. Their flag should just be white. But so he says it in French, "I'm a fighter," as he resigns. Yep. Nice.
At least he said it in French, where we know it's a lie. Whereas if he said it in English, it'd be like, maybe.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, and then right before he was coming out to resign, the wind took away all of his papers on the podium. So he's poor guy. He's resigning. He's resigning. Bye-bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. All right, so we got one leftist leader who may or may not be the son of Fidel Castro. He's resigning, and then we have a pro-American patriot, Donald J. Trump. His election is going to be certified today. Wild. Who will take Justin Castro's place? Nobody knows. Probably Pierre Poilievre. Maybe. We'll see what happens. But I love the duct tape in the background. You better say what we told you to say.
Don't go off script.
But let the records show, Mason and myself decided that the weather was more important than breaking in with that resignation.
Hey, man, it's cold outside. It's cold. We got to make sure you guys are updated.
That's what we got to do.
Protecting you.
All right. So I think there's only one more thing that you can say about Canada.
Give us your reaction to.
Sorry, it's Trudeau. It's Trudeau.
Or one of my favorite hotkeys I've collected over the years.
You're fired.
Yep.
So good.
Justin Trudeau. I mean, listen, we got a lot of memories with Justin Trudeau. We have a lot of great memories with Justin Trudeau.
Great is stretching it a little bit.
No, dude, we do. Should we take a trip down memory lane with Justin Trudeau?
I mean, we might as well. It's his final send-off.
Listen, you know what his one of the things he really did? He stood up for the Rainbow Mafia and their rights.
I will never apologize for standing up for an LGBTQ2+ kids.
Okay. That's, yeah. He was a big fan of castrating kids. Let's be honest. Let's just call it what it is.
I will never apologize for standing up for an LGBTQ2+.
He's a fighter.
He's a fighter. He goes down swinging. Justin Trudeau also famously, he loves blackface. You've seen all the Halloween costumes that he wore. He loves blackface, but he loves the LGBTQ community even more. It was back in 2017. He was crying about the oppression of the LGBT community.
For the oppression of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and two-spirit communities, we apologize.
Oh yeah, we apologize. What's the two-spirit thing? Do you have any idea?
I'm the wrong person to ask, but Google is a better option. Let me check.
I'll find out what two-spirit is. I mean, they're apologizing for oppression. Justin Trudeau. Yep. He's wrong. He's gone. It's Trudeau. Do you have what the two plus spirit?
A gender identity that embodies both masculine and feminine traits, signifying a person who exists outside the traditional Western gender binary and often encompassing a spiritual aspect as well. It's considered an umbrella term. Yeah.
All right.
Now you know.
And the determination of Canadians. It is the driving force of every single day I have the privilege of serving in this office. That is why, since 2015, I've fought for this country, for you, to strengthen and grow the middle class. Why we rallied to support each other through the pandemic, to advance reconciliation, to defend free trade on this continent, to stand strong with Ukraine and our democracy, and to fight climate change and get our economy ready for the future.
I mean, he did none of those things. He did none of those. I have a friend that lives in Canada, He lives in Waterloo in Ontario. And, dude, the middle class has been absolutely decimated in Canada. Long before our middle class was decimated. Way before. And he talks about how he did so good during the pandemic. It's like, no. You were like raiding New Year's Eve parties because people had the audacity to have 3 friends over. It was absolutely insane. Good riddance. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. It's Trudeau. I thought this was coming Wednesday, but he wasted a little time. Justin Trudeau resigning as the Canadian Prime Minister. What a day. All right. Also, if you've never seen the pictures, please do yourself a favor and Google Justin Trudeau and Fidel Castro side by side. The rumors about Justin's mom being what's the right way to say this? I don't think there is a right way to say this, but there were rumors that she slept with Fidel Castro right around the same time she became pregnant with Justin. She was in Cuba at the time. You look at those two side by side, man. It's wild. But, hey, Canada's been liberated. It's a great day for the West. Here we are. And it's going to be an even better day when the certification of the election of 2024 goes through. We're looking forward to that. We're going to be covering that all day long. That is going to be fantastic. Okay, on the way, I've been meaning to talk about this, and I was going to talk about it this break until Justin Trudeau ruined my train of thought. But the Sean Ryan podcast with the Cybertruck bomber, I want to get into that. Did you watch the podcast?
No, I haven't yet.
Okay. Listen, spoiler alert. Saw the tweet. We're putting out this podcast, and I'm going into hiding. That's from Sean Ryan. I was like, whoa. And then I see this letter. And it's like gravitic propulsion drones and war crimes. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm listening. And when I got the podcast on, be honest with you, underwhelmed and unimpressed. And it seems like they're being cleanup after it. Sean Ryan hosted a Twitter Spaces last night. I thought he was going into hiding.
I mean, hiding doesn't mean you lose your internet connection.
Fair. But I don't know. Seems like they're in cleanup mode. We'll talk about that on the way. Hang out with us. It's 1021 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The show is brought to you by Better Water, LLC.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Up ahead on Super Talk 99.7, Justin Trudeau steps down, and President Trump is fighting lawfare with lawfare. We'll tell you about the lawsuit he just filed. That's coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan Jones. 10:24 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. We were talking about Trudeau a minute ago, and I played that clip. We went down memory lane where he was trying to say LGBTQPTIS2S plus, and I said, "What's
pretty funny.
What's the two spirit? What does that mean?" And 1067 with the savage text of the day said, "Two spirit means two souls going to hell for the sin of homosexuality." Ruthless.
That's a nasty one. That's nasty.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the text, 1067. 615-737-9986 if you want to get in on the conversation. 615-737-9986. I'd love to get your opinion on the Sean Ryan podcast with this email that was sent to them. Now, when this broke, Sean had put out a tweet saying that he was going to be disappearing for a while because of this episode. He said, "My family and I are disappearing for a few days. My account will be active, but it will not be me behind the wheel. What we are about to release is mind-boggling, will raise a lot of questions. All media requests need to go to my producer." So he said, listen, my account's going to be active. I'm not going to be behind the wheel. We're going into hiding. And he releases this podcast episode. And I've retweeted the podcast episode. Definitely think it's worth a watch. Absolutely. And I was excited about it, especially because I had seen the email. And the email, a lot of people pointed out the email. They're like, oh, if you look at the email, there's squiggly lines under the misspelled words, and you can see a cursor in there. And so, you don't get emails like that. So the email can't be real. And I was like, yeah, but if you forwarded the email and you took a screenshot of you forwarding the email, which is what it looked like, then you would have those lines appear. So I wasn't questioning the authenticity of the email. They received the email. But what was the email? Well, I'll read you the email real quick. All right, so the email breaks down like this. It says, "In case I do not make it to my decision point or onto the Mexico border, I am sending this now. Please do not release this until 1 Jan and keep my identity private until then. First off, I am not under duress or hostile influence or control." Again, this is the email from Michael Livelsberger, who is the Cybertruck bomber in Las Vegas. He sent this to Sam Shoemate, and this was discussed on the Sean Ryan podcast. He said, "First off, I'm not under duress or hostile influence or control. My first car was a 2006 black Ford Mustang V6 for verification. What we have been seeing with drones is the operational use of gravitic propulsion systems powered by aircraft by most recently China in the East Coast, but throughout history, the U.S. Only we and China have this capability. Our OPSEN location for this activity is in the box below, Operations Center. China has been launching them from the Atlantic from submarines for years, but this activity recently has picked up. That actually coincides with what a New Jersey official had said, that they were launching them from subs. As of now, it's just a show of force, and they are using it similar to how they use the balloon for SIG, INT, and ISR, which are also part of the integrated comm systems. There are dozens of those balloons in the air at any given time. The so what is because of the speed and stealth of these unmanned AC. They are the most dangerous threat to national security that has ever existed. They basically have an unlimited payload capacity and can park it over the White House if they wanted. It's checkmate. USG needs to give the history of this, how we're employing it and weaponizing it, how China is employing them, and what the way forward is. China is poised to attack anywhere in the East Coast." So I'm going to stop right there because after this, he gets into war crimes, and I feel like you're burying the lead. During the podcast, they didn't spend a lot of time on the gravitic propulsion stuff. It seemed like they moved off of it and went to the war crimes very quickly, which I found odd. I mean, listen, if this is what he wants to bring attention to, I mean, that's the lead in the email. And I'll be honest with you, the thing that made me, go, I don't know. When he said, only the U.S. and China have this capability, I'd be like, I would be willing to bet if the U.S. and China had this capability, there would be a third country who's currently embroiled in some fisticuffs over in the Middle East that would probably have this technology as well. But, hey, what do I know? I'm just a humble radio DJ. So only the U.S. and China has this technology. And then from there, he says, I've been followed for over a week now from likely Homeland or FBI. and they've been looking to move on me and are unlikely going to let me cross into Mexico, but won't because they know I am armed and have a massive V-bid. That's a car bomb, essentially. I've been trying to maintain a very visible profile and have kept my phone, and they are definitely digitally tracking me. I have knowledge of this program and also war crimes that were covered up during airstrikes in the Nimruz province, Afghanistan in 2019 by the admin, DOD, DEA, and CIA. I conducted targeting for these strikes of over 125 buildings. 65 were struck because of civcas, civilian casualties, that killed hundreds of civilians in a single day. U.S. FORA continued strikes after spotting civilians on initial ISR. It was supposed to take 6 minutes and scramble all aircraft and CENTCOM. The UN basically called these war crimes, but the administration made them disappear. I was part of that cover-up with aircraft and CENTCOM. The UN basically called these war crimes. Oh, the administration made them disappear. I was part of that cover-up with U.S. FORA, an agent redacted of the DEA, so I don't know if my abduction attempt is related to either. I worked with Jen Miller's IO staff on this, as well as the response to Bala Murgab, AOB's commander at the time. Redacted can validate this. You need to elevate this to the media so we avoid a world war because this is a mutually assured destruction situation. For vetting, my LinkedIn is Matt Berg or Matthew Livelsberger, an active duty 18Z out of 110. My profile is public. I have active TSSCI with UAP, USAP access. And it was sent from Proton Mail. So that's the email. My thoughts on the email and the podcast when we return after the news with Joan Jones right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It's 10:30, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Justin Trudeau announcing that he intends to resign as the leader of Canada's ruling party and step down, he says, as prime minister once a new leader of the Liberal Party is put in place.
Tonight, I asked the president of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
Now, Trudeau's departure comes amid Canada's upcoming election that his Liberal Party is forecasted to lose badly. President Trump is not taking no for an answer, even though the judge in the hush money case says he will not sentence Trump to any time behind bars. Trump is demanding that the whole case get thrown out.
Judge Juan Merchan plans to sentence the president-elect to an unconditional discharge because it strikes the balance between the duties of a president and the sanctity of a jury verdict. But attorneys for Trump say that does not matter and no sentence is appropriate because of legal errors. They also say Merchan lacks the authority to move forward because Trump is still appealing the earlier ruling that the Supreme Court's presidential immunity decision does not apply here. Brian Clark, ABC News, New York.
Franklin police need help finding a guy who was convicted for hitting a police officer with his car, but then he failed to report to prison. 28-year-old Roy Nicholson was supposed to turn himself in on Thursday to begin a 5-year prison term. A warrant has been issued for his arrest. Police say if you know his whereabouts, contact Franklin Police. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. It's Chris Sand here from my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. It is that time of the year. Have you gotten your system serviced? Well, if you need to, you should call Busy Bee because they can get you set up with some great deals and some great equipment. If you're needing a replacement HVAC system, you're not going to find a better value on replacement systems. Busy Bee will offer up to 12 months with no payment, no interest with approved credit, and it'll pay in so many ways to sign up for that annual maintenance on your plumbing, heating, and air systems from Busy Bee. For added rewards and savings, you got to sign up to be a Beehive member. I'm a Beehive member, and the value is huge. You get thorough annual maintenance on your plumbing, heating, and air systems, no overtime charges 24/7, and 10% off all repairs, plus front-of-the-line coverage. That was huge for me when my AC went out over the summer, man. They were at my home in less than an hour. They can do that for you as well. Plus, they have tons of good specials going on all January long, and you can get these deals today, like 15% off indoor air quality products or a complimentary smart thermostat with any HVAC replacement. That's a $200 value. That's from your Rude Pro partner, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Call them today for satisfaction guaranteed. 615-775-7833. 615-775-7833. BusyBeeHVAC.com.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
It's 10:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You know what we should do? A Super Texter sent this in. We're going to need ice cubes. It was a good day at some point. You know, we got Donald Trump being certified today. We got Justin Trudeau resigning. It is. I mean, this is the definition of a good day.
I absolutely agree with that.
It's a very good day. We're talking about the Sean Ryan podcast and the Michael Livelsberger email. Okay, so I'll say this. The FBI said that they have strong evidence that the email that was shared on Sean Ryan's show was sent by Matthew Livelsberger. Okay? I'm not questioning the authenticity of the email. Although, who sent it? Like, I agree that they were sent an email. It's the who that I'm wondering. But the FBI said that they have strong evidence that the email shared on that show, the Sean Ryan show, was sent by Livelsberger before the explosion. They said this in a press conference over the weekend.
That's Kevin Nies with NBC News. How would you describe his state of mind in these final days, given everything that you read from his notes app and the manifesto that you see that you referenced going around in the podcast? Have you guys been able to rule out that it was not from him, or is it still up in the air that it could have been from him?
So the question is, how would I describe his state of mind in the manifesto that was described on the podcast? Have we been able to determine whether that was from him or not? And I'll answer the first part is, I'm not comfortable giving you state of mind just yet. I certainly am leaning a particular way, but again, I'd like to be factual to you. I think when you read the documents that we're going to give you a link to at the end of this press conference, that you can go in and make some of your own assumptions about what that is. But I will tell you that part of my hesitation on that is, I know that we have a lot more documents and number of things for us to uncover. And so I want to be able to provide to you only the factual information when I have it. And so I'm not going to opine on what I believe his state of mind was at that particular time. But certainly you can see some troubling aspects in his personal life as well. And I don't know if you want to address the second part, Spencer.
Yeah, so in terms of the so-called manifesto that's circulating online, we have strong evidence to suggest that it was the subject that wrote it, but we haven't conclusively proven that yet. And that evidence relates to other evidence that we're finding that we're able to compare that lead us to believe it was in fact him who sent it.
Now, so all right, so the FBI is saying that email that was sent to Sam Shoemate and the Sean Ryan podcast was sent by Matthews Livelsberger, okay? The Cybertruck bomber in Las Vegas. When has the FBI ever lied to us, right? So we got to trust that on its face, right? We have to. We just have to. There's no reason not to trust the FBI. Okay. So listen, I was very excited about the Sean Ryan podcast. I'm not going to lie to you. Very excited. But when I watched it, I was underwhelmed. They talk about gravitic propulsion systems, and then they move on to war crimes, and they say, oh, well, he was clearly motivated by the war crimes. And then Sean had put out a tweet saying he was going into hiding, yet the very next day it felt like they were in cleanup mode. Sam Shoemate is on another podcast saying that this guy had a psychotic break and that his meds were switched. That wasn't discussed on Sean Ryan. It wasn't. Then last night, Sean Ryan had a Twitter Spaces that he hosted, and I was like, I thought we were going into hiding. Now, is this a psyop within a psyop? Is it the Spider-Man meme where all the Spider-Mans are pointing at the other Spider-Mans and we don't know which Spider-Man is the real Spider-Man? I don't know. All I know is that for what was supposed to be an explosive show, I was left very, very underwhelmed. Very underwhelmed. And part of me, like, listen, I'm the conspiracy theory guy on the station, right? Like, I love a good conspiracy theory. And when I saw this episode, I just felt unfulfilled. It just felt empty. Now, I don't know if I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of roads you could go down. Is the email authentic? Well, the FBI told us that they think it came from Matthew Livelsberger, so let's take that. Okay, let's trust the FBI. We know how we feel about the FBI. Is Sean Ryan a CIA asset? Is Sam Shoemate a CIA asset? That's what a lot of people are alleging online. If you're trying to get a psyop out there or a narrative out there these days, are you going to go to NBC News or are you going to go to the podcast world? Right? I think you would go to the podcast world. Now, I don't know if Sean Ryan is in on it or if he was taken for a ride by Sam Shoemate, but I just feel like this whole thing was a massive whiff. Massive whiff. And so we got this email. He's like, gravitic propulsion systems and war crimes. We got the documents coming out from the FBI, the notes left on his phone, where he says, fellow service members, veterans, Americans, time to wake up. We're being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves. Okay, yeah, all right. A second letter stated, we're the United States of America, but the best country to ever exist. But right now, we're terminally ill and headed toward collapse. It later added, but this was not a terror attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? Okay. So as I'm taking all of this in, I'm just trying to figure out the why. Like, why? Why would, if this is faked, why? And I came to the conclusion that maybe what they want to do is increase surveillance on veterans. This is what I came to. Maybe they want veterans to be under increased surveillance. And I came to this conclusion because it sort of seemed like the narrative was being shaped around that over the weekend. You had a lot of mainstream media blaming the veteran community for terrorism. You had Alejandro Mayorkas. He was going on a bunch of different news shows over the weekend. He was on ABC at one point, and he was talking about the phenomenon of radicalization in the military.
Let me also ask you about this issue of extremism inside the military, radicalization of service members and former service members. The former President Trump's nominee for Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, has called this issue of extremism in the military a sham, suggested that perhaps some of the efforts to combat extremism are going to end. What's your response?
I would say this, George, the phenomenon of radicalization of individuals is not limited to the military. It is something that we are very focused upon in society writ large. The military is not immune to it, nor is the federal workforce.
So, yeah, the military is not immune to radicalization. Okay, that's not as harsh as some of them. Lawrence O'Donnell, though, went on MSNBC, and he outright pointed the finger at the veteran community when it comes to terrorism. And I think that this is absolutely disgusting and vile. But it leads me to that conclusion. I think that one of the things that the deep state wants to do is increase surveillance on veterans.
Who has ever crossed the southern border in the history of the existence of the southern border has killed more people in this country than Timothy McVeigh, who was born in Lockport, New York, the northwest part of the state, into a white Roman Catholic American family with roots in this country that go back farther than Donald Trump's roots in this country. The New Orleans terrorist, like Timothy McVeigh, reached the rank of sergeant in the United States Army. The simple fact is, this country has suffered more deadly terrorism at the hands of American-born citizens who are veterans of the United States military than people who have crossed into this country at the southern border.
Vile. What an absolute... Oh, my gosh. I don't want to say it, but I do, but I can't. FCC. Listen, I look at the Sean Ryan podcast, I look at what they're doing, and then I look at this narrative being crafted by the mainstream media, and I just see these parallels, and it seems like the one thing that's in common is that they want to take a closer look at the veteran community and keep a closer eye on the veteran community. And I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I also find it funny that he brought up Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bombing. Who was John Doe number 2? And the striking similarities between that and the accomplices that were or were not with the New Orleans terrorist attack. Have you seen the video of the NOLA attacker waving at somebody as he's holding one of the coolers? He's like flagging somebody down in the crowd. He's just waving at them. Oh, no. He did it alone. There was nobody else there. Don't worry about it. Listen, I'm just trying to figure out why, if this was a plant, this story on the podcast, why they would do it. Because I read the email and I watch the podcast and Sean Ryan says he's going into hiding, and then you watch it and you're just like, meh. Collective meh. The internet sleuths collectively meh. You got people pointing out that the vehicle verification that he put in the email, the year was wrong. And then you get this, a parallel narrative being crafted in the mainstream media that's pointing the finger at veterans for terrorism. And that to me just feels awful slimy. Lawrence O'Donnell wasn't the only one doing it at MSNBC. Joy Reid was doing it as well.
This case comes as the driver in the separate vehicular attack in New Orleans was also identified as a military man, a U.S. Army veteran from Texas. Now, of course, these are just 2 cases involving military vets, and this is in no way a broad brush about military service members in general.
She says, this isn't a broad brush, but
according to a University of Maryland study of extremist mass casualty violence, and the study was funded by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, military service turns out to be the single strongest individual predictor of becoming a mass casualty offender, far outpacing mental health issues.
Oh, weird. So listen, I'm just asking questions. And I don't know if Sean Ryan, he did work for the CIA. Sam Shoemate is an asset as well. They're all assets, at some form or another. Mike Cernovich, he posted that he was fed a garbage story by intelligence assets back in 2017, right as he was starting to blow up. These things happen. I don't know if Sean was taken for a ride. I don't know if the email was completely authentic, and they do have gravitic propulsion systems, which is definitely within the realm of possibility. But I'm just confused at this whole thing. Very confused. Your thoughts, 615-737-9986. Corey in the borough, you're up first on Super Talk. What do you think about the podcast?
First of all, I do think it was underwhelming as well, and the only reason why I thought that going into it is because I'm a avid watcher and listener of Sean Ryan. I've been following him for a minute, and when he only releases an hour-long podcast versus his 2.5 to 3.5 hour average, means that he's just trying to do it on the fly. So I will say the benefit of the doubt is with him, and to get all his ducks in a row going forward, because I do know he is an honorable man, because he did release something on his show before about the hurricane and Helene and the Carolinas, what was going on with the National Guard and the military's end, that he put out some wrong information and he retracted it and made it right. So I do think, if anything, for sure that Sean Ryan was either, outsmarted or whatever. He thought he was just doing the right thing. Also, I think that the Special Forces community, if you watch some podcasts this weekend or over the weekend, there's been a couple that most of them are they had good intentions. There's just not enough information. Like when you were talking about the drones, whatever word they use, it's only been used in fictional books. That doesn't mean anything. Just like the squiggly lines in the email, one of the things that they highlighted as spelled incorrectly are metaphors, WH for White House. So to say that these are the reasons why they're incorrect is crazy.
Yeah, and I didn't. Listen, the email, I'm not questioning that they received the email. Right. And I even said with the spelling errors and stuff, it's like, yeah, but if you look at the screenshot, it looks like he's forwarding an email. So all of a sudden it's back in edit mode. It's not in receive mode. Yeah. So those things would pop up. But it seems like they're trying to create a narrative. And listen, Sean Ryan has been massively in the news because of the Sarah Adams podcast in light of the recent terror attack in New Orleans. And if you're a government agency trying to plant a seed for a narrative, wouldn't you go there?
I agree. And also the one thing that they try to discredit Sean Ryan about is his podcast when he went to Megyn Kelly's show and he talked about his time in the military and the CIA. And in between his transitioning and everything, he essentially was a drug dealer, if believe it or not. But he was in a different part of the world doing what he was doing as a way of surviving. And, that's when he found Christ and everything else during that journey. So I'm just saying that man is a honorable man. To discredit Sean Ryan for trying to do the wrong thing, or to do the right thing, rather, is the biggest spit in the face in this whole thing, in my opinion, because there are so many people who are on Sean Ryan's side. They're against the guy, Sam, whatever his last name was, because of his past. And I don't know if you know the story about him putting out stuff on Twitter and such about the budget cuts for pilots in the military, turned Russian propaganda, blah, blah, blah. So I'm saying that guy I'm not really too concerned with, but I think Sean being like the top 3 of podcasts is he just wanted to do something to make a difference.
That could be part of the targeting too, is that Sean Ryan has so much clout and has such a platform that the discrediting makes him seem like a CIA asset currently.
I could see that, but just based on the Sarah Adams and the legend, all that stuff, the dev group guys he's been talking to, and even like the hacker, I can't remember his name, but he's pretty popular in the hacker world and the CIA world, is that if you listen to him, I don't see him being an asset. If he is, he's definitely a very well-trained one. But I would say that, in my opinion, there are more people in the government right now trying to discredit the podcasting worlds. Yep. So that's what I think, if any PSYOP would be, is to try to discredit podcasts going forward. Yeah. And just another attempt to muddy the water before Trump gets in, kind of thing.
No, man, I hear you, and I appreciate the call. A lot of people want to weigh in on this. I'll get George when we get back, plus anybody else that wants to weigh in, 615-737-9986. It's 10:54 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, and I'm here for my friends at United Structural Systems. If you're in the majority of Tennessee, we didn't get snow, we got rain. And if you have waterproofing issues at your house, that rain is the biggest headache in your life because you know where it's going. It's getting into your crawl space, it's getting into your basement, and it is wreaking absolute havoc. And maybe you've just been praying that it doesn't rain, but that's not going to change anything. What's going to change something is calling an expert to come to your house and take a look at it. And if you have waterproofing issues, the experts in Middle Tennessee are United Structural Systems. They've been doing this work since 1994, and they have over 30,000 satisfied customers. They're going to come in, look at the problem. They'll tell you if it's nothing. They'll tell you if it's something huge. They're not working on a sales quota. They're working to fix the problem for you. That's the difference. They'll come in, they'll create a custom solution, and when they leave, they won't leave until the work's done, you're satisfied. But when they do leave, they'll leave behind a warranty that is good for life. Even if you leave the home, the warranty will stay. That's how confident they are in the work they do. Whether it's waterproofing or foundation repair, call the best. Call USS 615-488-7855. USS, keeping homes dry and stable. 615-488-7855. USSTN.com. It's 10:59 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Ham. We're talking about this Sean Ryan podcast, and I want to get your thoughts on it. George in the borough, what do you think, man? George, you there? George's not there. George, we'll put you back on hold. We'll get to your call next. 615-737-9986. So the email said gravitic propulsion systems, war crimes, and the FBI says, yeah, that email, according to them, came from Matthew Livelsberger, the Las Vegas Cybertruck bomber, on the Sean Ryan podcast. But it seems like there's been a just strategic campaign, mainstream media-wise, to go after veterans in light of the terror events in New Orleans and Las Vegas. And I just wonder if this is just a ploy to increase surveillance on our veterans. Maybe. There's a lot of questions, more questions than answers. It's a wild couple of days that we've had. I got some updates on the New Orleans terror attack. Plus, we'll talk more about that Sean Ryan podcast when we return right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eleven o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got some blowing snow out there, but it's not doing anything to the roads. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau today announcing he plans to step down as the Liberal Party leader, then as Prime Minister after a new leader is selected for his party. Trudeau making his remarks from Rideau Cottage in Ottawa. Here's the Prime Minister during those remarks.
I truly feel that removing the contention around my own continued leadership is an opportunity to bring the temperature down.
The 2024 presidential election finalized today with the announcement of a winner before a joint session of Congress. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy with more from D.C.
It's a process spelled out in the 12th Amendment. The vice president, in a role as president of the Senate, opens the sealed envelopes containing the electoral vote certificates. Those votes are then tallied and then announced to the joint session by Vice President Harris. She calls this duty a sacred obligation. The Electoral Count Reform Act, passed by Congress in 2022, clarifies that the vice president has only a ministerial role, with no power to set aside electoral votes.
President-elect Donald Trump not facing jail time, but his attorneys want this week's sentencing in his criminal hush money case to be halted. Here's Brian Clark.
Judge Juan Merchan plans to sentence the president-elect to an unconditional discharge because it strikes the balance between the duties of a president and the sanctity of a jury verdict. But attorneys for Trump say that does not matter and no sentence is appropriate because of legal errors. They also say Merchan lacks the authority to move forward because Trump is still appealing the earlier ruling that the Supreme Court's presidential immunity decision does not apply here.
Here closer to Tennessee, a man with a violent record and a frequent meth user has been arrested after a deadly carjacking in Oak Grove led to a pursuit to Illinois. News 2 says 36-year-old Brian Lee Kerr Jr. allegedly shot a person multiple times in Oak Grove, drove that person's vehicle to Humphreys County, where he dumped that vehicle, stole another vehicle believed to be a deer hunter's truck, and then crashed the truck in Murray County. Authorities believed Kerr was armed with 2 handguns and an AR-15 rifle, adding he had a prior conviction from 2004 for first-degree murder here in Tennessee. So you're trying out dry January. With recent warnings about alcohol consumption, some are wondering if even that is enough.
Abstaining from alcohol for a month seems like a good idea, but Dr. Elizabeth Coleman, a medical oncologist at NYU Langone Health, isn't convinced it's the best way to keep a check on your drinking.
My concern about Try January is what happens February 1st. We need to be honest about the lifestyle changes we can realistically make. And if we go cold turkey on something, what happens for the rest of the months of the year?
Because of its link to several types of cancer, the Surgeon General recently advised putting warning labels on alcohol. Dr. Coleman says even one drink a day can be harmful.
That's Sherry Preston. And the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
It's 11:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? I'm Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. If you need a water filter, call Better Water LLC. You can find me on True Social, Twitter, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. We're talking about the Sean Ryan podcast and the massive news-breaking event that was a bit underwhelming. I'll be honest with you. And I like Sean. Man, I like Sean a lot. I played all of his Sarah Adams audio, and he's got some great guests. He's got a great show. He's also former CIA. So I think that you got to take some of the things that he says with a grain of salt. I'm not saying he's doing the government's bidding, but you know, listen, you gotta be careful where you're getting your information from. Sam Shoemate is the guy that was on the podcast, and he's had some questionable things in his past in regards to releasing information that is incorrect. Sean has too, but Sean always comes out and corrects it, and kudos to him for doing that. But the email that was sent was a bit crazy, bit wild. You get this email from Matthew Livelsberger, who's the guy that blew up the Cybertruck in Las Vegas, and he's talking about war crimes and gravitic propulsion system drones that China and the U.S. has, and it just seems a bit off. And I'm trying to figure out where this story came from, how this story came to be, and what, if it's fake, what the reasoning behind it would be. Now, Sean's been getting a lot of airtime across just about every platform because of the Sarah Adams interview, where she said, you know, come 2025, we got a lot of terror attacks coming. And it didn't take long, did it? January 1st, we were there. We saw it happen. Now, maybe the government saw that Sean has a huge, massive audience and wanted to plant a fake story. Maybe Sean Ryan was taken for a ride. I don't know. Maybe everything in the email is completely true and we do have gravitic propulsion system drones. Maybe China does. Maybe China's launching them out of subs off the East Coast, like that one New Jersey rep said, which was corroborated in the email from Matthew Livelsberger, which the FBI said it was actually sent by him, according to their info. But maybe if you're a U.S. government official and you know China has that kind of technology, it's a nice place to kind of leak that you have it too. Even if you didn't, I don't know. There's a lot of questions when it comes to that podcast. But when you see the narrative in the mainstream media vilifying veterans in our country, which has been going on since Obama took office, let's be perfectly honest, but vilifying veterans and saying veterans are responsible for terrorism in this country, like we saw with Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC and Joy Reid on MSNBC, I just wonder if this is all a psyop to increase surveillance on veterans. I mean, what Lawrence O'Donnell said on MSNBC is just downright vile.
Who has ever crossed the southern border in the history of the existence of the southern border has killed more people in this country than Timothy McVeigh, who was born in Lockport, New York, the northwest part of the state, into a white Roman Catholic American family with roots in this country that go back farther than Donald Trump's roots in this country.
It's a fun fact. He brings up Timothy McVeigh. Similarity between the Oklahoma City bombing and the New Orleans terrorist attack. John Doe number 2 and accomplices that never were.
The New Orleans terrorist, like Timothy McVeigh, reached the rank of sergeant in the United States Army. The simple fact is, this country has suffered more deadly terrorism at the hands of American-born citizens who are veterans of the United States military than people who have crossed into this country at the southern border. It is very clear from the evidence that if you want to worry about terrorism in this country, the United States Army is a much bigger problem than the southern border.
I mean, that just wild, right? Is that not wild to you? I can't believe this guy would go on TV and say that. But he's on MSNBC. I mean, I think more people probably heard it on my show than on his show, but still. Brian in Nashville, he's a vet. Thank you for your service. What do you think about those comments?
Yeah, man, thanks for having us on. I appreciate the topic. Love you guys. Love what you do. I like that you guys bring, these topics out. Myself, I was in the military 20 plus years, been to almost 30 different countries. You know, I know a lot of people out there have opinions on everything, and people like to point out the military, you know, anytime anyone does something bad. And I agree, man. Anybody can go off a loose rocker every once in a while, but they want to highlight the bad of one single thing. But I don't know that they also, you know, turn around and point out the good stuff that they do too. I mean, a lot of military, when they come out, they're veterans. They still make up 25% of the police force. At least 1/3 of all the pilots are prior military. 10% of them are EMTs. Almost 20% become firefighters. So, I mean, if you took just military out in general, you're crippling the whole civilian workforce for people who are public servants and want to continue to do a good job for everybody in every state and everywhere we go. And I just think it's unfair that military is getting a bad rap when there's so many of us who still look for jobs. I mean, only 1 in 5 military people alone, if you're looking for a job, are unemployed. We still seek to serve and try to better the community and our lives and serve people. So I just think the military is getting a very unfair representation and only showing one side of it. I just find it to be very disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, vets, we need to roll out the red carpet for you guys, and we haven't in decades, and I think it's absolutely disgusting. And then for these guys to get on MSNBC, Lawrence O'Donnell, Joy Reid, and say, we're not painting with a broad brush, but veterans are responsible for all the terrorism. It's like, what? What are you talking about?
That's right. I mean, even a lot of the military, once they retire or they do a short service, you know, they don't finish out their full term. Some of the highest employment rates for the military is not only for public service, but they also go back into the Department of Justice, Department of Energy. You know, they work on, with Northrop Grumman. They work with these large contracts to do great things for service stateside and overseas. So they just are getting a bad rap without good representation, and it's just really sad.
Yep, 100%, man. I hear you. Thanks for the call, Brian, and thank you for your service. I appreciate you, brother.
You bet. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, man. Thanks. You know, listen, I don't know. And when it comes to the Sean Ryan podcast, I have no idea. I don't have any military training. I'm not a CIA asset. I don't have experience in those worlds. It could be 100% factual. Like everything could be above board and on the up and up. It very well could be. Or there could be some other things at play. I just think we need to ask the question. And just because we love Sean Ryan and we trust Sean Ryan doesn't mean that he couldn't have been taken for a ride also at the exact same time. I'm not saying he did, but I'm saying it's worth asking the question. And then if you're asking the question, you go, why? And then you hear that mainstream media narrative. You know, you've already heard calls for more surveillance in this country because of the terror attacks. Like, how much more surveillance do we need? Everybody's walking around with a personal surveillance device. Like, how much more? How much more surveillance is going to be enough surveillance? And then they're going to target our veterans if they aren't already. It's wild. Absolutely wild. Doug in Nashville, what do you got, man?
Hey, I'm a veteran myself. Thank you, though, first for putting me on, having me on, guys, today.
Oh, thank you for your service, man. I appreciate you.
Myself, it just looks to me like the Democrats and the liberals in this country they're looking for something to pin this on rather than taking responsibility for their actions for the past 50 to 60 years.
Yep.
This all started in Vietnam.
Yep. I hear you. It's disgusting, but this is what they do. And thank you for the call, Doug. I got a lot of people on the text line. They're saying, so how about the 19 Saudis on September 11, 2001? Veterans? ? That's from 2898. Yeah, honestly. Right? Yeah. But the MSNBC, they don't care about facts. But we're learning more. We're learning more. In the New Orleans terror attack, we're learning that he traveled to Egypt and Canada. Egypt and Canada in years prior to the attack. That's interesting, isn't it? FBI officials said on Sunday the investigation into Shamsuddin Jabbar has expanded as they've discovered that he crossed state and international borders, including into both Egypt and Canada in the years leading up to the attack. That's interesting, isn't it? You know what's also interesting when it comes to Canada? There's actually a designated terrorist group that is going to be hosting an Islamic supremacy conference in Ontario on January 18th. This is actually happening. An extremist group that a number of nations, including the United Kingdom, have labeled a terrorist entity is set to host its annual Caliphate conference on January 18th in Ontario. Hizb ut Tahrir, which translates into Party of Liberation, said the theme of the conference is eliminating the obstacles that are delaying the return of an Islamic caliphate. Is America really so powerful that our community can't defeat it? The group wrote in a post on Facebook. There have been superpower states in the past too, like Romans and Persians, yet they were defeated by the Ummah. Their great cities like Constantinople are now Muslim cities. This is happening in Canada on January 18th. Absolutely insane. The post went on to claim that the Ummah at those times had the support of Allah, asking, what must the Ummah do to get Allah's support once again? Ummah means community. What steps do we need to take to become victorious against today's colonialist superpowers? We'll answer these questions at our upcoming Khalifa conference, it concluded. Learn what it will take for our Ummah to overcome America, Europe, Russia, China, and others from the position we're in today. If you want to help create real change in our Ummah community, then get this critical knowledge by attending Inshallah. All right. The post was accompanied by a video featuring scenes of Muslim conquest. This is happening right up there in America's hat in Ontario on January 18th. And this guy who had a terror attack in New Orleans, Shamsa Din Jabbar, he traveled to Canada. He also traveled to Egypt. Again, this was confirmed by the FBI over the weekend. They're expanding their investigation into international borders.
Thanks to information provided by you, the public, this investigation is crossing state and international borders as our agents follow leads in Houston, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Tampa, Florida, and internationally. FBI Houston has recovered evidence at his home there, and the work now shifts to our specialists at the FBI laboratories. Interviews are being conducted with hundreds who have been identified as knowing key pieces of this complex, evolving case. We have also tracked that Jabbar traveled to Cairo, Egypt from June 22nd until July 3rd of 2023. A few days later, he flew to Ontario, Canada on July 10th and returned to the U.S. on July 13th.
Again, Ontario is the one that's hosting that designated terrorist group Khalifa conference on how to advance their Ummah and to get over these colonialist superpowers.
On 2023. Our agents are getting answers as to where he went, who he met with, and how those trips may or may not tie into his actions here in our city in New Orleans.
Yeah, well, listen, let's trust the FBI with everything they say, right? Let's take it at face value. They originally came out and said they're looking for other suspects. Then they said, no, we're not looking for other suspects. He's a lone wolf. But be careful, there might be some copycat attacks. But you can see in a video that's been released over the weekend where he's dropping off those bombs in the coolers. In the video, Shamsa Din Jabbar, the terrorist who attacked in New Orleans, can be seen waving to somebody in the crowd. No explanation as to why, but he's clearly flagging someone down, doing a big arm wave while he's on the phone to get someone's attention. He totally acted alone. The FBI said that. Don't ask any questions. But listen, you should keep your head on a swivel out there, and if you don't really know how to start to keep yourself and your family safe, I recommend my friends at the Glock store. When you need to train or you need to get a firearm, you should go to the Glock store. When I go to train, that's where I go, and I should go more often. I'm going today, actually. I'm very excited. I go to the Glock store and the shoot270.com indoor ranges. They have private shooting rooms and personal instructors, not multiple lanes and some stranger shooting next to you. And in 2025, they have a new deal just for you all month long. If you book a shooting session at shoot270.com, you'll get to shoot a full auto H&K suppressed MP5 just for mentioning my name, Chris Hand. That's a $50 value, and you get it for free by saying, I heard it on the Chris Hand Show. I'm actually going down there after the show today to shoot this full auto H&K suppressed MP5, and I am downright giddy. You should be downright giddy, too. And if you book a session at shoot270.com and mention my name, you get to shoot it for free. It's the incredible, incomparable shoot270.com, only in Nashville and only at my place to train, the Glock store. Book your session right now, shoot270.com.
Canada is going to be looking for a new prime minister. And here in Tennessee, the man who fired a shot at a Walmart in Lebanon, still out there somewhere. Details coming up at 11:30 on Super Token 99.7 WTN.
You know, this actually, that story makes me feel even more confident last night when I said to the wife, like, nah, it's too late for you to go to Walmart. Let me do it.
Yeah.
You know, crazy people, man. Crazy. It just gets crazier. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. You want better water? Get yourself a water filter from Better Water LLC. My man Mike in Nashville has been hanging on the line for a minute. Mike, I apologize for keeping you on hold for so long. What do you want to talk about, brother? Mike,
what's up, man?
I
wanted to talk. I wanted to talk about these two deals that took place on January the 1st. Okay, now one of the other callers before me, he said basically what I'm about to say. Now, you know, I'm not condoning what these people did was right. I'm not saying what they did was wrong. But what I'm saying is that the military, especially Joe Biden, they have literally turned their back on the American veterans. You know, I'm a truck driver, and as I travel around the U.S., it's very common for me to pull up to a red light. I'm pretty sure you see it in Nashville where you see a guy on a street corner at a red light in a wheelchair that has a sign that says he's a Vietnam vet. Now, how would you feel if you was a Vietnam vet or any other veteran from any other war, and you were homeless, basically homeless, and your government had turned their back on you, and Joe Biden is giving out money to these illegals, he's giving out credit cards, cell phones, the whole deal. and giving them a free place to live. How would you feel if you was a veteran and you had been treated like that by your own government? Like I said, I'm not condoning what these people did was right, but like a previous caller said, our government has basically turned their back on our military veterans. And hopefully Donald Trump, when he gets in the White House, he will change that, because it's not right. It's not right for a man that fought for his country. Okay, now I'm going to get this example. This guy, this black guy that did the deal in New Orleans. This guy here, he was having financial difficulties. He was living in a trailer home in the Houston, Texas area. And like I said, he felt like, I think that was part of the reason why he did what he did. You people ask that question, why would a guy that was in the U.S. military, how could he do such a thing? How could he, harm the people of his country? But I'm just telling you, it builds up a lot of animosity to their own country when they see people from other countries being given things and they haven't done damn thing for this country. I'm just saying it's not right. And these people, I believe that you're going to see more actions like this by former military veterans, because a lot of these people feel like they've been treated bad by their own government. And I'd like to see how you feel about what I
mean, listen, I get where you're coming from. I tend to disagree a little bit. The guy in New Orleans, I would argue, was he radicalized before he joined the military?
No, he was not radicalized. He wasn't radicalized as far as I know.
Well, there are reports
after he got out of the military.
But there are reports out there that he was reported to his COC in the Army for radical Islamic views, and that they didn't make an issue out of it because they didn't want a religious or racial issue on their hands.
Yeah, but I don't think. But he wasn't kicked out of the military for that. He wasn't.
But they said
he wasn't kicked out of the military for his views.
But the reports were that they didn't even raise the issue. But my point is that he very well could have had those views before he joined the military.
Yeah, I agree with you. He might have had those views, but like I said before, you take the other guy, the deal in the guy in Las Vegas. It seems like his same circumstances with him, that he was upset about some things with the government. He claims that he knows information about drones and other things, and that might have been what he did. So I'm just saying, you got a lot of former military people out there that have bad feelings about about how they've been treated, and hopefully these people won't take no actions. But there are a lot of former military veterans out there that have very bad feelings about their own country.
Well, and I think that's part of the reason why they're crafting this narrative that I think would increase surveillance on veterans. I tend to agree that there are people that are frustrated with the government. I don't think that means they're going to be terrorists or they're going to go attack innocent civilians. I don't think that's the case at all. I just don't. But we're learning more about that terrorist in New Orleans. Apparently, he had a rare explosive never before seen in American or U.S. or Europe bomb attacks. Never before seen. Right Angle News Network said that the Bourbon Street terror suspect Shamsuddin Jabbar used an extremely rare explosive compound in his failed devices, one never before seen in attacks within the U.S. or Europe. I mean, that's pretty interesting. And the FBI yesterday saying, listen, we can't determine whether or not he received any assistance. We do know that he was employed at the time of this attack. So a lot of the financial stuff that they said he was going through, the FBI said he was employed at the time of the attack. There's a lot of questions. And I just don't trust the people giving us the answers. I don't. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got some snow falling out there, but it's not sticking to the roads. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau today announcing he plans to step down as the Liberal Party leader and then as Prime Minister after a new leader selected for his party. Trudeau making his remarks from Rideau Cottage in Ottawa.
Despite best efforts to work through it, Parliament has been paralyzed for months after what has been the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history.
2024 presidential election finalized today with the announcement of a winner before a joint session of Congress. And we're hearing today from the ex-girlfriend of the man who killed himself and exploded a Cybertruck outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas last week. Here's Alex Stone.
Investigators say it is clear from Matthew Livelsberger's own writings that he was suffering from PTSD and other mental health issues. His ex-girlfriend tells ABC News as they dated, she could see he was struggling with mental health after deployments.
He was really open about the trauma he faced and the teammates he lost. He lost a lot of teammates over the years.
In a letter on his phone, Livelsberger called the explosion a stunt.
Here in Tennessee, police still looking for a man who fired a shot at a Walmart in Lebanon Saturday night. The store had to be evacuated. The neighborhood nearby told to shelter in place. Fortunately, no one was hurt. Detectives continue to investigate what occurred and gather details about the suspect, who was wearing a black jacket and gray sweatpants and was believed to have been driving a green vehicle. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
It's 11:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. The show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. We got 30 minutes until the certification of the election results from 2024. That's exciting. On this 4th anniversary of the deadliest day in American history, the insurrection of 2021, where the only person that died was an unarmed Trump supporter and veteran, Ashley Babbitt. The View's talking about it. So you know it's big news when The View's talking about it. And Sunny Hostin on The View, she understands how dark of a day that was in history just 4 years ago. And she's comparing it with, the Holocaust.
I think we need to find moral clarity, in this country. And I just remember after January 6th, you had someone like Mitch McConnell placing the blame on January 6th where it belonged, squarely on Donald Trump's shoulders. And then you started seeing people backtrack that and losing their moral center. You had Condoleezza Rice, I believe, on this very show saying, we need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on because January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery, we need to never forget because.
So just so you know, January 6th was just like the Holocaust and child slavery. Never forget.
Past becomes prologue if you forget any race.
Yeah. January 6th is like the Holocaust, obviously. Obviously. And we can't forget it. I love what she says. Well, now they're taking a step back and they're starting to revisit those opinions. At first, it was all Donald Trump's fault. And then things changed. Like, what changed? Well, maybe we found out that you had feds in the crowd. That changed a lot. Still waiting for all those J6 tapes to be released. Very eager about the pardons that will come through on January 20th. I hope that is done as quickly as he can. They need to look at all of those pardons, and they need to get those people out. The MAGA grandma that goes in there and prays, no, that's ridiculous. These people have been punished enough. It was an unarmed protest with instigators baked into the crowd. So that's happening today. Very, very big news. Also happening today, Justin Trudeau resigning as the Prime Minister of Canada. Scott Jennings on CNN had something to say, and he said, God bless those truckers in Canada.
Gentlemen, thank you. I think. You want to talk about Justin Trudeau?
I wanted to talk about Canada.
You talk about Canada?
God bless the truckers. That's what I'm saying. Well, there's a direct line from those truckers to what's happening today. Good riddance.
I'm sleeping. It's only Monday. It's my first day back.
Yeah, God bless those truckers. There is a direct line from that trucker protest. That was the moment Trudeau lost control of his nation. He never regained it. And he shut down those guys' bank accounts, and he went after all of them. I mean, it was too much, way too far. It was what you would expect in a communist country happening just to the north of us in America's hat. Justin Trudeau said, I'm a fighter. I'm going to keep going, but I'm also resigning. And then as he's taking questions from the press, he's almost crying as he realizes that Pierre Poilievre, the conservative in Canada, the MAGA conservative, the Save Canada guy, he could be the next Prime Minister of Canada.
You spoke about the Liberal Party as an institution and the internal battles right now, but I'm wondering if you feel that another leader will have more success than you will at beating Pierre Poilievre in the next campaign.
Pierre Poilievre's vision for this country is not the right one for Canadians. Stopping the fight against climate change doesn't make sense. Backing off on the values and strength and diversity that Canada has always worked to pull itself together on is not the right path for the country. Attacking journalists, the CBC institutions, that's not what Canadians need in this moment.
Just for the record, the CBC is essentially Canadian government propaganda. It's the equivalent of the NPR in America here. It's funded by the government, and it pushes government narratives.
We need an ambitious, optimistic view of the future, and Pierre Poilievre is not offering that. And I look forward to the fight as progressives across this country stand up for the kind of vision for a better country that Canadians have always carried, despite the tremendous pressures around the world to think smaller, to veer towards the hard right, and to be less ambitious for what we can be and do as a country when the world really needs Canada.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the world would be. What do we need Canada for? I mean, listen, they'd be a great 51st state. Lots of resources that we could use, but I don't think we necessarily need Canada. What have they done for us lately? Nothing. They're just our hat. That's it. So lots of news happening. As the certification process kicks off, we'll be covering that live here on Super Talk. I know Chad Benson, who's in at 12, he's going to be following this very, very closely. And then later on in the week, Trump's going to be sentenced. Oh, that's awesome. People are upset that he's not going to go to prison. Deal with it. You lost. This is the way it goes. You guys lost. Chew on that. But over the weekend, you had a lot of leftists very, very upset. And, they're upset about a lot of things. One of the things that they're upset about is Donald Trump's picks, from Pete Hegseth to Tulsi Gabbard to Kash Patel. And Kash Patel, it's wild, this angle that they're taking. You had Adam Schiff and Amy Klobuchar going on the news over the weekend saying that the terror attack in New Orleans has shown that we shouldn't confirm Kash Patel. And I thought that's odd because I find it to be the exact opposite. But let's listen to Adam Schiff.
Let's talk quickly about the president-elect's cabinet picks. Kash Patel for FBI director. That comes against the backdrop of this latest terror attack in New Orleans. You, of course, serve on the Judiciary Committee. If Kash Patel is confirmed, will you be able to work with him? You've been quite critical of him.
Well, first of all, Kash Patel should not be confirmed. And I think the terrorist attack in New Orleans and my heart goes out to those who have lost loved ones in that attack, just underscores again the importance of having someone directing the FBI that has experience, that has judgment, that has character, that will prioritize defending the country against the violence we saw in New Orleans or the violence we saw on January 6th.
Oh, yeah. On January 6th. Oh, yeah. Well, your FBI put assets in the crowd. I mean, listen, let's be honest. Also, in New Orleans, it was your FBI who said, this is not a terrorist attack. And then you had to come back and say it is. It was your FBI who said, we're looking for accomplices, and then came back and said, never mind, it was a lone wolf. They said, we need real leadership at the FBI. And Kash Patel is not that. He doesn't have any experience. No experience at all. From the ranks of a public defender all the way up to the deputy director of the DNI. Yeah, no experience, none. Definitely not worth being the FBI director.
Not someone whose top priority is political vendettas, who believes in deep state conspiracy thinking. Not someone who is as unqualified as Kash Patel. So Kash Patel is an easy one. He should not be confirmed. The others, Marco Rubio, I think eminently well qualified. Several of the other nominees. Again, we should follow that regular process that the majority leader has laid out. But that one should be an easy one. Oh, yeah, it should be so easy. I'll tell you what, nothing like a huge red flag when Adam Schiff co-signs Marco Rubio. Yeah, that definitely gives me confidence. I wonder if it does the same for you. Amy Klobuchar also weighed in on the FBI over the weekend, and she said, listen, guys, you look at what the FBI did in New Orleans, and they did such a great job. Klobuchar said, we have a very functional FBI right now that has investigated New Orleans, investigated Las Vegas, came out, told the public exactly what was going on. When did that happen? When did that happen? She goes on to say, so I don't believe that to be the case. I believe our job. We just took an oath. I just took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. We have a duty to advise and consent. A number of our Republican colleagues in the Senate agree. That's why we must have an FBI check on Kash Patel and these other nominees for these very serious security positions.
She added, "We know what their background is. We must see their financial disclosure forms. The president-elect has put in a number of billionaires that could have all kinds of conflicts into these jobs." Well, Kash Patel's not a billionaire. Kash Patel scares them because Kash Patel, he values the truth. And Kash Patel has said, he's going to scatter the FBI all over the country. Kash Patel said he's going to look where nobody else wants to look. Kash Patel knows where the bodies are buried. That's the issue they have with Kash Patel. They have the issue with somebody, I don't know, looking into that J6 committee, which we're hearing all about today, how great those guys are.
If the January 6th committee is in fact this legitimate committee, then you know what? Members of Congress can't hide behind the speech and debate clause for committing felonies when it comes to destroying and suppressing evidence to law enforcement agencies. And since we just found out about it, here's what I'm proposing. If and when Donald Trump wins the presidency, there may be a full-fledged investigation into those in Congress who aided and abetted this corrupt criminal activity.
That's what they have a problem with Kash Patel. He's going to look into these kind of things. When it comes to January 6th, Kash Patel isn't afraid to say names like Ray Epps.
I think as a former federal prosecutor and a public defender who defended a lot of these types of cases, what you need to show is whether or not the FBI and government agents were using undercover operatives and informants on the day of January 6th, because if you can show that, they've been out. Hang on. But the paperwork shows having run informants, that's a 6-month buildup. Minimum. Right. Minimum. It's not like they just dropped them into the Proud Boys and said, hey, go, don't disrupt, please. So once you prove that, then you defeat the insurrection narrative with the FBI's own documentation. Forget what the videotape shows.
This is the guy that they're afraid of, and this is why they're afraid of him. So Adam Schiff says Kash Patel shouldn't be FBI director. Amy Klobuchar says the FBI does such a great job. We don't need Kash Patel. Kash Patel should not be confirmed. It's like, okay, yeah, we get why. We get why. Senator Jim Banks, though, he shut down Jake Tapper over the weekend while Jake Tapper attempted to make it seem like Kash Patel's reform agenda is going to be a hindrance to investigating crimes.
I want to play some sound from one of those nominees, Kash Patel, nominated to be director of the FBI. This is what he said about the agency that's now charged with leading this terrorist investigation.
The FBI's footprint has gotten so freaking big. And the biggest problem the FBI has come out of its intel shops. I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I'd take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops.
So a lot of the people he's talking about, the 7,000 employees that work in the building, are right now chasing down criminals, chasing down terrorists, investigating what happened in New Orleans, trying to make sure nothing like that happens again. What's your reaction to that?
I think Kash is right. I mean, the last 4 years, we've seen the leadership of the FBI be more focused on the political causes of the left, going after parents at school board meetings instead of going after and investigating ISIS members in America. I mean, the Jabbar in New Orleans had ISIS content on his social media account. We should have been more aware of that and planned to stop that attack from happening and going after him. And instead, the FBI has become way too bureaucratic, way too political. And Kash Patel is going to be a big part of cleaning it up. But never forget that Donald Trump is going to be the president. He's going to be in charge. He's going to instruct Kash Patel, and I expect Kash Patel will help clean up the mess.
Yeah, Kash Patel will help clean up the mess. But, Amy Klobuchar says, no. The FBI's done a great job. Well, you didn't spot any of the warning signs, so you blew it. 100%. It's 11:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 11:55 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. I'm Chris Hand. Chad Benson's in here. What's up, Chad?
What's up?
You have a good weekend, man?
I did. It's snowing outside. I walked here in the snow. That's how brave I am.
Did you have like a parka?
No, I had a jacket with some fur on the inside and I had gloves. I had mittens.
You had some mittens?
They're gloves, but I call them mittens.
Those must be new mittens because that's not something you need in Arizona.
That is not something you need in Arizona, but it was nice. I don't mind the wind. The wind sucks, though. I don't care about the cold. I don't care about the heat. I hate the wind.
Yeah.
That ruins everybody's day.
Yeah, it's not fun.
No.
The wind in Arizona, though, is like hot.
It is.
Hot wind.
Well, it's like somebody's opened up the oven, like you said, and then they're blowing stuff on you.
Yeah.
It's gross.
It's the only time in my life I've ever felt hot wind.
Yeah.
Though I probably would prefer that over, the
chilly wind,
the sub-zero winds.
Well, I was telling everybody, cold kills far more than heat does.
Yep.
Heat will make you feel uncomfortable, but cold, ooh, it's ugly.
Yeah.
It's ugly when you're out there. So what'd you talk about today? A little bit of Sean Ryan stuff, right?
Dude, yeah, we went into the Sean Ryan stuff. I don't know. Did you watch the podcast?
I did.
What's your initial reaction on it?
I mean, here's the thing. Do I think some of it's true? Yes. My initial reaction is, why aren't we talking about the thing that needs to be talked about? There is a sphere that uses gravity to propel itself around. That to me is the most incredible thing.
That's one of the things that really bugged me. They moved off of that
right away.
so quickly.
Yeah, that was the thing.
And I'm like, you're burying the lead.
That is the lead because nothing else matters. I don't care about anything else. You're telling me that China and us have alien technology that we have tried for 50 years to figure out how this kind of stuff works, and that we can go virtually anywhere on the planet instantaneously, and you're bearing the lead because he knows his audience, and the audience, I think, likes the conspiracy.
I mean, but I just wonder, like, if you're a government official and you want to plant a story out there, that's the route you need to go now, is through these podcasts, through back channels, in order to get the internet community to buy into it. And I'm like, okay, well, if we don't have that technology and we do know it's China and they have it, because a New Jersey rep said as much that they're launching by the subs, a couple months back. Well, you plant that in a story, and then it seems like it leaked.
Leaked a little bit, but he said we have it too, so both of us have it. So that would be. It's just an odd. That was the lead though, and the rest of it was. And how much do you, the shoemake guy, how much do you believe, don't you believe? Because I saw a lot of people out there poo-poo both of them saying, this guy's made up stuff in the past. He's made up emails in the past. I don't know. I mean, some of the emails are true. How much of it's real? How much of it's not? There's definitely some interesting stuff. But I think it's a guy who is mentally ill because he had suffered from PTSD. His ex-girlfriend said he'd lost so many friends, and as he calls them, his teammates. And I think he had CTE, too. I think he had CTE from too many headshots.
Well, and Sam Shoemate said on a podcast the next day that he had recently switched his medication.
Yeah.
I mean, that'll throw you through a loop.
Absolutely.
But it also seemed like they were in cleanup mode after that. And for Sean Ryan to say he's going into hiding.
Yeah, which is weird.
Watched that episode. I'm like,
hiding from what?
Why are you going into hiding? And throughout the episode, they said, well, we're talking to the FBI. We're turning this into the FBI. We're turning this into everybody.
Yeah.
I'm going into hiding?
Yeah. Well, and I had several people go, won't they be in trouble for releasing this? I'm like, why? They didn't steal the information. It was given to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you steal it, then you're in trouble. If it's given to you, you can go do what you want with it at that point in time.
Yep.
They may ask you not to, but it's too late. So it was anticlimactic. I don't know why you're going into hiding. I mean, that seems very dramatic.
I think that if he hadn't have sent out that tweet that he's going to go into hiding after this episode, and maybe I would have not been as underwhelmed as I was.
Unless, of course, the aliens are coming for him.
It could be.
Which would be awesome.
Let's go.
That'd be so cool. What happened to Sean Ryan? The Greys got him. You know how it goes.
It'd be a collective meh.
It would be. That whole thing was a collective meh.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I wasted a little bit of time on this thing.
Yep.
I need more.
I was very excited about it. I was like, I got to watch this. I'm telling my wife all about it. She's like, I have no idea what you're saying.
Yeah.
She's like, what is a gravitic propulsion? I said, well, they're manipulating gravity.
Yes.
And then I watched it and I was like,
It's gravity using gravity to fly around. That's what it can happen. It's unstoppable. It's the greatest thing ever. Is it Chinese? Maybe. Is it ours? Maybe. Is it fake? Maybe.
Yeah. I've gone on record. If aliens show up, I'm going to say, don't buy it. Project Blue Beans. Chad's in next. What do you got coming up, man?
We're going to talk about some of this stuff. We're going to talk, obviously, January 6th, the deadliest day, and whatever. We're also going to talk about dock workers. They're going to go on strike soon, and if they don't want automation, but we have no docks in the top 50 in the world as far as productivity, and it's ridiculous, and it's scary because if they go on strike, whoop, there goes prices.
All right, Chad Benson's in next. Hang out with us at Super Talk 99.7 WTN.